Hello everyone and welcome. Today's tutorial we're going to be doing the comfy toy bear. And to start with, the first thing I did was hoop a piece of tearaway stabilizer, since this project is an end hoop project. When you got your instructions with the design, it doesn't come with your pre-cut fabric sizes. So what I did was I took the hoop that I was going to be using for my project, which I'm using the 8x12 here today. And I know since everything's going to be done in this hoop, I pretty much cut all my fabrics based on inside of this hoop. So like one of the pieces, you would need to cover your entire design at the end. So I know I needed at least one of the pieces to be almost like the same size as my entire hoop. And then I would cut other pieces like half the size of the hoop, basically, so I have everything pre-cut and ready to go to make this process as simple and easy as possible. Okay, so we're gonna get started. This design came with two separate steps. The first one is going to be your ears, arms, and legs. So I'm gonna do the placement stitch on those, and I'll be right back. Okay, the placement stitches are done, and these are for the ears, the legs, and the arms. Now you're going to take the fabric you have chosen for these, which I've chosen this nice, this is actually a flannel piece. I love flannel because it comes in all like kinds of colors and patterns, and it's really soft, so you can use it for a lot of baby projects. So you're going to take the two pieces that you cut out for this, and you're going to sandwich them together, and you're going to put right sides together, because you're going to lay the entire piece. Once you get them right sides together, you're going to lay them over the entire section, just like this. And then now it's going to be your tack down stitch, and that one's going to go completely over the stitches that were just made. So I'm going to do those real fast. Okay, so we have all of our pieces tacked down. So what you want to do now is you're going to take everything completely out of the hoop, and you're going to cut away all of your stabilizer. You're going to cut away all of your excess fabric, and you're going to turn all of these right side out, and you're going to put them aside for the project later. Okay, so I am all done. Here we've got our pieces that I completed and turned right side out. And then for our next step, you're going to want to hoop another piece of tearaway stabilizer, and you're going to want to upload your next file, which is the bear's body, onto your embroidery machine. Okay, so I'm going to pick these up and I'm going to put these aside because we're going to need these for later. Okay, so what we're doing now is it's going to do a placement stitch for the entire body of the bear. Okay, so the placement stitch is done, and it did the entire body of the bear. And then you want to go ahead and do your next stitch as well, which it does a placement stitch for the top part of the head. So I went ahead and did that already. And then you're going to take your piece of fabric that you cut for the top part, and I've chosen this soft minky, and you want to make sure that you're straddling the line just a bit, and you're completely covering the stitch, because this next one is going to do a tack down stitch, and it's going to go over the same exact lines that it just drew. So that's why you want to make sure that you have your fabric over the stitches. Okay, so the tack down stitch is complete. And so for our next step, as you can see in your embroidery machine, it's a line, and that is actually a tack down line, and that's for your next piece of fabric, which is the piece of fabric that's going to go right here. But for this one right now, what you want to do is you're going to take your next piece of fabric, and I've chosen this green minky. You're going to flip it right side down, and you're going to put it over that last piece of fabric you just tacked down, making sure that it lines up at the edges here, because the line's going to go straight across here to tack it down. Okay, so now that this piece of fabric is secure to your stabilizer, you want to grab this top piece that you just put on there, and then you want to bring it down. So now you have the two sides facing right side up. But this side you want to make sure is down, and you kind of press it a little bit, because your next stitch is going to tack down this piece of fabric to your stabilizer. Okay, so this piece is now secured to the stabilizer, and we're ready to go for our next step. And our next step is to grab your bottom piece of fabric that you have chosen, which should match the top, or however you want to do your design. And you're going to do the same exact thing as you did for your last step. You want to place it right side down over the last piece of fabric that you had. Oh, and I went ahead and just trimmed a little bit of the bottom here very carefully so as not to puncture the stabilizer below, because I had like this much over, so I cut it back so that way I didn't have too much. So you're going to put this piece of fabric and make sure it's at least over the line of your last fabric stitch. And then this one is going to do a tack down stitch in order for you to be able to do the next step. Okay, so the tack down stitch is complete. It secured this piece of fabric to your stabilizer. So now what you want to do is you want to, like the last one, you're going to grab this piece of fabric and you're going to pull it down. So now you're going to have all three exposed. And the next step is a tack down stitch, which is going to secure this folded down piece to your stabilizer. Okay, so the tack down stitch is complete, and now the bottom part of your fabric right here is secured to your stabilizer. And for your next step is a placement stitch, which I already went ahead and did. It's a placement stitch for the nose and mouth part of your bear. So once you have that placement stitch in place, you want to grab your fabric that you've chosen, which I've chosen another minky, and you're going to place it over that placement stitch. And since I've chosen minky, I'm also going to put a piece of water-soluble stabilizer over it, so that way any stitches that are inside the minky won't sink into it. Because as you know, minky is very thick, and it like towels, the fibers stick up a lot, and if you don't use something like water-soluble stabilizer, you'll lose your stitches inside the fabric. Okay, so the tack down stitch is complete, and what you're going to want to do now is you're going to want to cut away all this excess fabric around your stitching, because your next step is to do a satin stitch almost all the way around this circle here. Okay, so I've taken my applique scissors and I've completely cut as close to the line as I could, cut away all the excess fabric, so that way my next stitch could be placed really nicely over these edges. Okay, so the last thing we did was the satin stitch around the edges of this last piece of fabric that you placed, well, your next step would be the nose and this little mouth part right here. And then you would do your eyes. And then the next step after that would be the placement stitches for your ears, arms, and feet. And that would be here, here, and then right towards the bottom here. So you're gonna grab your pieces of fabric after you have completed all these steps right here. So I've got my arms here, and I'm going to put one over, flatten out a little bit. I'm going to put it over the line here just a little bit. You want to make sure that everything kind of stays inside the bear, because the last step we're going to put your big piece of fabric over the top of your entire project, because we're going to tack that down to make your back part of your bear. So I'm going to find my lines, and then I'm going to grab my painter's tape and you can secure the arms so they stay where you want them to. Okay, both arms are on the inside. I'm just going to do one down the middle here, and that's to hold these guys in the middle so they don't head towards my edges. I'm going to grab my ears, these pieces, and you're going to find your placement stitch. And remember, you just want a tiny bit over the edge. And then I'm going to take a piece of tape and secure it just over the line here. And I'm going to do the same for the other ear. I'm going to go ahead and finish taping all of these down. And before I do my next step, I will show you how everything taped down. Okay, so I have all my pieces taped down, and what the next step is the stitch is going to do a tack down stitch and secure all your arms and legs to your stabilizer and into your hoop. Okay, so tack down stitches is all complete, and I went ahead and removed all the tape, because for your next step is you're going to take your last piece of fabric that you cut and you're going to place it face down over the entire design, making sure that you keep these on the inside, because your tack down for this next piece of fabric is going to follow the outside line. So just make sure these are still tucked away, and then very carefully place your top piece of fabric over your entire design. Make sure it's laying flat. And it should look like this. Okay, and the last step in your embroidery machine is just to do this tack down stitch, which will go almost all the way around, and it'll leave a space in order for you to turn your bear right side out. Okay, so your machine should have told you that the last stitch it did was the last one for inside the machine. So what you're going to want to do now is take your hoop off the machine, and we're going to take everything out of our hoop. We're going to remove all of our stabilizer, cut all the excess fabric away, and turn them right side out. Okay guys, here we have him. He's all turned right side out, all the excess fabric removed, and I went ahead and put the little knot in his arms. And with the little closure here where you flipped him right side out, just go ahead and do a ladder stitch. Anything to just keep them closed. Also might be a good idea is maybe doing a little pin, little push pins, and maybe using it as a pocket so the kids can put something inside, you know, a little secret something that they want. It's also very versatile too, because you have all this space right here. You might be able to do like a name or a monogram. These things are so versatile, you can pretty much do anything with them. Fabric choices, whatever, just as long as you can work with it and it comes out to the way you like it, you can do whatever you want. The design is there and it's yours. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and have a great day guys, and happy stitching. Hi, before I go, I just wanted to show you what he would look like if he was stuffed. This is also another option when it comes to doing this design, is just grabbing some stuffing and making him a nice plush doll.